groovy. All right, let's see if we're in tone. Yeah. I mean, I'm in tune. I think the who had that song? I'm singing out my song because it fits in well with the way I'm feeling. Hello, everyone. How you doing? Favor to all of you this day. May there be nothing missing, nothing broken in your lives, and I hope you're doing good. Hey, you're here with us, and that means you're here amongst, they say, the living. That could be debatable, but anyway, we'll go with the standard perception of reality. Welcome, everybody. Hello, Cass. How are you? David, Barry. Hello, Cajun Queen Tarot. Nick, good to see you, my friend. Got to get you back on. Anne, good to see you. Thank you, all the moderators. Heather and Jamma and Divine Empress, much peace. Think agape love always. Hello, True Seeker. How are you doing? Pure Love Ascension. Hey, Darth. Claudette, good to see you. Ricardo, hello. Hillard Ward, good to see you as well. Scott, greetings. Sarah, hello. You know, I love the song the Starship did. Sarah, great song. Check out the video. It's a good one. Anyway, how is everybody? You know, Spirit 7 Love, hello. Thank you. And I'm feeling, I tell you, today is a groovy day. It's the best word to put to it. I have been as busy as a 1-hour bandit in an ass whooping contest, but it's been that high level energy, the kind of really fun type of energy. So yeah, really creative stuff. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Unaperstein, we're going to learn about today. How many of you know who Unaperstein is? You're going to find out. Hello, Melissa. How are you doing? AB3, good to see you as well. Kill Bill, hello. Good to see you. Welcome. Let's see. Bum, 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 bum. Had that song in my head, you know. Hello, lamppost. How you doing? Yeah. Feeling groovy. Yeah. Then who can forget the Young Rascals? You know. Grooving on a Sunday afternoon. Hello, Emperor Rex. How you doing? Hey, Karen. Good to see you. Yeah, full room. Hey. So happy birthday to everyone having one. Anniversaries as well. Wasn't yesterday a lot of fun with Trina? Wow. I tell you what, that woman's got some high energy. Love it. Connecting to the higher places. That's what it's all about. You know, eventually we all leave these bodies. Eventually. You know, and no one likes to think about that, but you know, if you get yourself into a certain mindset, it's like, well, all right, now I'm going to start trying to focus in on what do I want to make that house like? I really do believe that's how it is. Yeah. You wake up into the reality. Now, I think you're with a soul tribe. I think very much so. I've been there. And yeah, hey, Jeannie, good to see you. Pamela, hello. Hey, Robin, good to see you. So, hey, got the cards. Remember, there are 3 different ways you can do this. Each card can have a value. In other words, around, right, 0 would be considered 1. The cross would be 2. Let's see, 3 wavy lines, 3. The square 4, and then the star is 5, or you can go by color. Yellow, it's yellow, red, blue, green, and black, or you can go by the circle, the cross, the 3 wavy lines, the star, or the box. So I don't know what these are. I've just been randomly putting my energy into them. So let's see if I can get them to levitate. Now that would really be something. Let's see. You know, Anyone want to take a, now don't take a guess. You can go to Vegas and do that. Concentrate on what the card is. There it is. You know, what do you think it's going to be? You've seen the colors, you know what the shapes are. So what it is, I think it's, I'll go with a circle. I think it's a circle. Someone said a box. Well, thank you, Alexandro. That's very kind of you. Someone says one. Okay. Someone says three waves, yellow, blue waves. All right. Let's see. Someone says a square. So let's see. The card is, wow. So whoever had black and a square, spot on. All right. So we'll do 5. We'll see how we beat, typically everyone can do 20%. It's when you start getting above it. All right, next card. I have no idea what it is. I don't know. Is it a green or a 5 or a star? What do y'all think? Someone says hearts. We don't have any triangles. I don't think we have any triangles. No, we either got a circle, a cross, 3 wavy lines, square, or a star. And I say star. Someone says circle, someone says green, circle, cross, blonde girl. Can't do that. Sorry, we don't have those cards. Let's see. No, it's not too late to play. So I think it's I keep on seeing the star. Let's just see whether we're doing any. Wow, folks, look at that. All right, I had that strong impression on that one. So there you go. All right. All right. So our group is rocking and rolling. Hey, Rock and Rhonda, thank you. Very groovy. All right, next card. Let's just see who are the true empaths here. And this is how we get better. We do this as a group. Oh, by the way, the channeling group, I will be having an email going out this weekend, and we're going to get together and we're going to have a little fun. Actually, it's going to be exercise, but all right. I get the cross. I get a red. I just see a red. Maybe that's the cross. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Lisa says blue waves, circle, black wavy lines. All right, let's just see what it is. And as he pulls the card, oh. Anyone have the circle or yellow? Yeah, Heather, you had it. All right. Way to go. All right. Have you seen Trevor 7? If not, when you get time, you should check him out. All right. Trevor 7. All right. Anyway, y'all, I'm going to write that down. Don't let that distract you. I see this, but that would be Trevor. Okay. I could really do the Jeopardy song. Do, 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 do. And the answer is, wow. All right. Well, yeah, I'm sticking. That's what I'm saying. I still see it. I still see the color. Yes, I see the color red. Yep, that starship, Death Star, it's out of there. See, that's actually is my metaphor for blowing away negative, controlling thoughts. Anyway. All right, let's see what it is. And I was right. So there we go. All right. We are getting better at this, folks. That was fun. Told you we do this every Wednesday. Doing it really impressive there, folks. Wow. All right. Groovy. All right. going to get into history. We all love history. That if there was a common denominator, I would say amongst the likes, I would say in this community is the thirst for knowledge, and that knowledge always is centered around the past, history. But the problem is, as we well know, they've jacked with history. You know, those jack-offs were jacking with history, and we don't know what out there. But fortunately, Earth, I guess, in her consciousness, says, well, we'll let them have a little piece of the puzzle so they can see. And we live in a time and an age, the information age, where we get to see this. And so we now know that much of what I can say for the baby boomers, what we were taught, what we passed on to, you know, the millennials, the next generation. Yeah. It was like, well, they said it was, so it had to be true. And then you hear it and you say, well, I heard them say it and they said that it had to be true. And then you say, well, it's true. And then you pass it on. It's called actually being a carrier of the virus. Yeah. All right. So a little history, if we may. As he goes, and we get into the bus, put on your seatbelts, and let's strap it in. All righty. So you see this couple here. This was probably the first selfie. And, you know, the lights back then were different. But really what we can really say is that you may know this person more as Noah and his wife. Actually, it's not Noah at all. It's actually Unepistine. The old Ute is what I'm going to nickname him. Ute was the guy who lived through it. They just took the story. Names and faces have been changed to protect the guilty. You know, that's what they did. They screwed with it. But again, history is coming out. So Unepistine is a very interesting character because he dates back to the Sumerian. Apparently really pissed off Enki. But the thing about it is, the Sumerian tablets, their poetry, their mythology, their deities, how they viewed things, predated anything of what we would call a Hebrew by over 1,500 years. I mean, it's not like it was just, you know, a decade ago. No. And all of this was you got to put this in context, folks. This is the first emergence of sapiens after the last catastrophe. And the story is told very vividly in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And that's where they got their Genesis story from. And when you understand Ute and his interaction with the gods, Enlil, I think this says Enki here. It's a history that was lost, but yet a history that has direct connections virtually to all belief systems of the world. I mean, if you take Abram who became Abraham when he met this other demigod named Yahweh. Now, where Yahweh was with Enki and Yel, I don't know. But nevertheless, Abram was Samaritan. So the tales of the Samaritans are something that we can't simply go, well, you know, they were the Samaritans. What does that mean? Well, it means that there was something. So the flood, everyone knows about the flood. It's the archetype of everything. Man was bad. But it wasn't that man was bad. That's the mind coitus. You see, the tale of Ute is echoed in the Judaic story of Noah and his ark, but the Sumerian Babylonian myth precedes Noah. So, what do we do here? But, you know, kind of blows the whole story of the book of Genesis out, blows out, you know, genealogy, the whole bit. So, how do we deal with this? Well, many different drawings of Noah, who was actually Newt. Ute is the guy, where everything is built on. And we're going to read the actual translation from the Naga. So it's an interesting name, Unapatism. Unapisting. Depends on how you want to bring it. Here he is, loading the animals onto his boat. Yes, lots of people were on the boat, by the way. It wasn't just the family. And so really it comes down to who copied who here. And you got to see, folks, this is critically important. There's two different paradigms here. Had the original paradigm been allowed to exist and become integrated into the cultures of society, of the civilizations and the story, but they couldn't. There's a reason why. You see, the other story, the one that was made up, now that came with all sorts of hooks, barbs, trap doors, everything else, because you see, here's the two dichotomies. The one on the left of Ute, man wasn't bad. It wasn't a case of sin was so out of control and, you know, God grieved him, then, you know, regretted he ever made man. We know that story. One filled with guilt, condemnation, and the permanency of the fallen state. Where if it had really been allowed to been told and promulgated through time, we would have found out these are cataclysms. Now, they're associated with gods, big G, capital O, capital D, S, gods. But the narrative over on the right wouldn't fit with that because, as we know, it's monotheism, patriarchal, guilt-based reward-punishment mentality. That's the doctrine. And so, isn't it odd, though, how these drawings, dang it, you know, when George Smith discovered them back in the late 1800s, I think, 1880, something like that, blew up the whole story, man. It's like, oh, man, could you just see the ones in control of the modern day religion and political structure and going, oh, crap. You know, how are we going to cover up this one now? Oh, yeah, okay. What we'll just say is that, well, that was their interpretation, and, ours is the real one. Yeah, right. So here's the deal, folks. No Noah, never was, no sinners. This is really about a magnetic pole shift. Amazing, is it not? That the whole story, give me 1 second here, folks, is simply about a magnetic pole shift. And the three major catastrophes, as we're about to get into, were predicated upon a literally geopole flip, Earth going upside down. That'll rock your world, baby. No doubt about it. So let's just get right into it. As you know, and we'll just get this a little bit bigger so others of you who are reading along can. So we're going to pick up now in the story that, if many of you know, the Genesis story. Now we're in chapter 2, and we discussed already that when we left chapter 1, the cataclysm hit. And you take the first 3 verses, put it at the first chapter, and you see where it goes. So it says, thus the heavens and the earth were established, all the host of them, and on the 7th day, the recovery from the cataclysm and flood were complete. And the 7th day brought rest from the fight for survival against the cataclysm and its after effects. These were advanced civilizations, by the way, folks. Listen, tomorrow we're going to be discussing how anti-gravity cars, commuter man moving at thousands of miles an hour here on Earth, cities that were connected, evidence. All right. After the 7th day brought God's blessed peace, as the cataclysm had abated, leaving those of his creation who survived. Here's the big question, folks. Where the hell was this God? Was he not strong enough, not powerful enough to stop it? I don't care what you want to call it, creation, creator, source, infinite being, whatever. It's a problem in the theology tree. It's like, well, now, wait a minute. If this thing is so badass, why couldn't it stop what kicked our butts? And it did kick our butts. These are the same regenerations. Again, you put that word, not generations. That's how the book reads today. They had to take that out. These are the same regenerations of the heavens, plural, and of the earth as they were reestablished after the cataclysm previous to the one of this story, when now we get, as I pointed out on Monday, a new character. Now, this one is called Lord God. Lord literally translates Baal. No, you can't deviate from it. You can't switch it. Some people will say, well, no, it's actually designation of a title. No, that is if you're into a monarchy, into this kingdom of the man realm. Now, this is Lord God. So literally the translation would read, Baal God reestablished the earth and the heavens. I know that gets people all riled up when I do that. So something's wrong here. It says every plant of the field before the cataclysm was in the earth, every herb was in the field before it grew, for the Lord God had not brought rain upon the earth in this region, and there was not a man to till the ground. And folks, I've seen your emails. Thank you. I've seen the comments. A lot of you are awakening. I mean, I've had people that said, I've read this thing 100,000, he said maybe 1,000 times in my lifetime. Never saw it. Yeah, that's called that the God's a spell. No man to till the ground. Now, here's the problem with that. No man to till the ground. How many of you have ever, I grew up on a farm during portions of my childhood. That was hard work. And if many of you have ever put in a garden, and we put in nearly a half-acre garden using that freaking rototiller. Anyway, it's hard work. And to say that there was no man to till the ground implies either two things: slave or indentured servant. Slave. I saw over on the 6-day people, they were free. Didn't say anything about them having to plow the ground. And particularly if it's virgin ground, you break it up the first time. Yeah, that's backbreaking work. So there was no man there, no rain there in that region. Well, that's because the pole had flipped. It's exactly what we know. But there was this cataclysm, and the great inundations rose over the earth. And it was God's will that man should rise up from the earth and keep the breath of life and remain a living soul. Now, this is his story. We have progressed from one species of man to another species of man. Remarkable. I don't know. And this one has a soul. All right. So, and it was God's will after a cataclysm that a continent eastward be established, and there in Eden lived the man of this story. And from this land grew other civilizations on other lands. Wait a minute. Barking the bus up. Whoop, whoop. All right. So what's happening here is this guy like Solomon and having sex like, 24/7? And it says, from this land grew other civilizations on other lands, with the motherland in the midst of all being the seat of wisdom, of all knowledge, both good and evil. No tree. It's a continent. Good and evil in this case, I guess, is places where you probably don't want to go and places that you can go. And the inundation destroyed Eden and left only its 4 offspring lands. This changes everything. Was no violation of any command of any God, and then, man was going to die. Man was already dying. Man knew that. Now, this is the story of this man, not all men, just this man. Interesting. Keep with us. Note, the next 4 verses are probably incorrect or incomplete, with the true descriptions locked in the correct translations of Egypt's Book of the Dead and the missing portion of the Pyrrhus maps. Interesting. The first land is near the river Pison, which includes the whole land of, I think it's Havilah, where there is gold. We all love gold. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and there is onyx stone. And the second land is near the river Gihon. Isn't this puts it in different contexts completely. I mean, these are different regions, not just a river coming down. The same land, which includes the whole land of Ethiopia. And the third land is near the Hedkal. That is the land towards the east of Eurasia. And the fourth land is near the river Euphrates. And it was in God's province that the man was of Eden, where he lived and toiled. There's that word toiled. Hey, this kind of just begins to really set the stage, doesn't it? See, I am interpreting God as an extraterrestrial being, a mean son of a bitch. And although it comes in the guise of a male form, human form, it's not human, not anything like a human. And the fact that it's supposed to be its will, then that will is that as a slave, we're going to be born and we're going to toil all of our life. And at the end of it, it's see you later, Jack. That's what it says. And he was descended from the original mankind, which settled that motherland. Here we get back when Trina and I were talking. Here's this whole thing, this original. No one's got the blueprints that I know of. It may be, in fact, that is what the original is in fact our genetic code. That we're like mere infants. We have no idea what our genetic code is. We just know it's complicated. We know it's vast, and we know it seems to be virtually unlimited. Don't know. And God's design was that man was warned, although the motherland was the source of all knowledge, both good and evil, that if he stay therein, surely he would die. And it was God's design that the man should not be alone. Therefore, a mate should be his. Now, we've just read about civilizations. I mean, okay. How's this procreation going on? Don't know. We continue. And since God had originally created every beast of the field and fowl of the air, and in his time Adam had named each one. Now we've gone from a man to now where the man is becoming a noun with a name. The name Adam. Not the first, but this rendition would be the first. And Adam gave names to all cattle and the fowl of the air, to every beast of the field. But for Adam, there was no mate. Okay, so let's see. If we go 19, God created every beast, but it was Adam who gave them names. Okay. For Adam's mate had died after giving birth to a child of Adam. And the child of the man was a female, made in the image God intended. And Adam said, "This child is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." And she grew into womanhood. Therefore, the man was both father and mother to her, and she abode with him, and they were one flesh. This gets weird, but so we know that it's not directly worded here, but Lilith was Eve's mother, Adam's first wife. Now, it says that she died giving birth to Eve. Now, the Liber Lilith, Lilith has a little different take on this, because as she says, she was not that part, that it was in fact Samuel who actually raped Eve and brought forth this child. And, that gets in, go back and look at the series. All right. So they are now, when you talk about bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, it has serious implications. And the climate there was warm, requiring little or no clothing. Okay. Now, the time of the beginning of this story, so that directly, when I read that, I'm saying, okay, the beginning of this story. It could very well imply that there were many other stories. But this is his story of this man, of which everyone says that was the beginning for all of us. No. All right. The oceans were in their normal state of quietness, and it was known to the woman of this story that she was not descended from any of the peoples of the lands which spring from the mother continent. So is this implying that Eve was of a different race? It would seem. And God's design was that the woman would learn that people of the offspring lands would live on. Now we're getting more detailed. People of the offspring lands. But the people of the motherland, from whom she had descended, would surely all die. So this was the refuge for her father and her husband, Adam, and their kinfolk, to get off into the offspring lands. And she knew that in spite of the impending inundation, she surely would not die. For God's design was that from the day she was born, she was descended from the original mankind of the motherland and was destined to know all, to discern both good and evil. This flips the table. Adam has a subservient role to Eve. It's why you read in the book of Proverbs, wisdom is always spoken in the female gender, in the female term of the pronoun. She wisdom. She wisdom was there before anything was. She wisdom was his daily delight. She wisdom created the heaven. I mean, it gets very interesting. And the woman, being of the motherland and being wise and good, knew that both she and her father were descended from the original mankind of the motherland. Now, this brings in a whole thing, on the evolutionary tree. What I see this as, where I stand now, this is genetics. This is geneticist in full swing here, because they're telling us there's a lot of other people. Now, we like to say, are from the motherland. Well, it was very important for Eve to make that distinction. And she apparently seems to carry, by implication of what's being worded here, all the wisdom, not Adam, the female. Why don't we have a female pope? Ah! OMG. They'd have to make the bathrooms bigger. Anyway, and they both were wise and had lived the good life. Well, I like that. I like the fact that there was the good life back then. Don't know what that was, but anyway. And it was that time of the year when some clothing was needed for warmth. Now, isn't it odd that we don't have anything here of killing an animal, nakedness, being ashamed, hiding? Man, I lived in a nudist colony for a while. There's nothing wrong with it. Let it all hang out, baby. I mean, it is what it is. It's amazing how you can have much more in-depth conversations if you get past, a lot of the other stuff. But hey, that's just me. And I go on. And in the cool of those days, when they were wandering which of the offspring lands they should go, and God's presence was felt strongly by them. Adam felt God's call. Now that's an interesting term, felt. Where have we experienced that? Well, if you're an empath, if you have a sense of being able to sense the future, going into a room, you can sense the energy. This is channeling. Where am I wrong on this? Adam felt God's call. He didn't hear it. Interesting, is it not? And said, I have heard God warning since summer, and have feared, for I know not where to find refuge. Again, does this God not sound more mechanical than flesh? More artificial intelligence? I mean, God's warning them. Is it Earth maybe that's warning Adam here? Because God's not giving them any kind of, map, And God's warning had come to him in the summer as a warning to leave the land of his ancestors. And asked her, and the man said, the woman who is my daughter and descended from my ancestors, give me this knowledge. So it was Eve who held the knowledge. I wonder how much Lilith is playing a role in the background here. Sounds to me, if, we're talking about how the story was originally written, it's gotten really ET-ish to me. I mean, this is different. And asked her again, what gift of knowledge has God given you? Adam didn't have it. And the woman said, I am of your ancestors and inherit their wisdom. And the coming inundations of the oceans have been made known to me. And God's design was that the oceans would so inundate the lands and drown all cattle and all beasts of the field and bury all dust. Wow. That's a hard-ass deity there, man. He made everything, and now he's going to kill everything. What? And God has given me victory over the oceans, such that the seed of future generations is in you and me, for the oceans will drown all others. Wow. And God's design was that although the inundation would greatly multiply her sorrows, she would even so bring forth children, as her love would be for her husband and his for her. And unto Adam it was God's will that he heed the words of his daughter, his wife. That's still confusing, but all right. And God's warning that though they be descendants of the original mankind of the motherland, they should leave, as its destiny was nature's berserk. And if they stayed, surely they would regret it. And where Adam was to go, the land would be difficult to farm, with thorns and thistles abounding. And even so, the herb of the field was to be their food. But his own toil and sweat was destined to fight for survival after the inundation, even to the end of his days, when he would return to his mother earth, as it was earth's man came from, and unto earth he shall return. That's interesting. So this, you begin to really think about this. You're going, my mind is, all right. And after the inundation, it shows the departure from the garden in a total different light. There was a cataclysm coming. I think the magnetic poles were still in the process of moving. Adam therefore made the woman his wife and called her Eve, and she was to be the mother of all living from the motherland. And again, after the inundation, as they were in a cooler, colder climate, it was God's design as part of their survival that they make coats of skin and be clothed. Well, now this takes on a whole different point of view, doesn't it? I mean, it's not like that this was suddenly a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice. No, folks, this was about freaking survival. The weather was changing. Talk about global warming, global cooling. And they didn't have, Marty the weatherman. I'm just telling you. And it was God's design that Adam should take with him the knowledge of good and evil from the motherland, as he put forth and left in order to live. Therefore, in accordance with God's will, he left the Garden of Eden to survive and live from the soil where he was to go, so that the man left the Garden of Eden and was subjected to a cataclysm of earthquakes and earth fire, and the motherland lost its foundations and sank beneath the ocean. Wow. So we get to now the point of where we're up to the third cataclysm. That's known as Noah's flood. And it's pretty easy to study, as he writes here, and it was the start of the new Stone Age, brought about by conditions following the last inundation, when even the basic requirements for living were no longer available. Since then, uniformitarian geology has been allowed by nature to continue on its path uninterrupted. And I want to get in now to the story of where we get into Noah's or Utes adventure. And so as I hope if you're doing speed reading, that has to be really fun. I'd get kind of dizzy after a while saying, man, would you stop it, please? And of course, as he continues, this is actually good stuff. We'll go back to this, but I wanted to get into, by the way, that the statues on Easter Island, how they have found that they couldn't figure out how in the world did those statues get buried. It's because they were that's what was left after the cataclysm went over. All right, so these are talking about the clay tablets. And there was 30,000 copies of the clay tablets that brought in the story of where we find the story of Ute. And among the tablets were the 12 comprising of the Epic of Gilgamesh, a man who was, at that time, a legendary king of the first dynasty of Erech, closely following the Great Deluge. He has since been shown to have been a real human being. Gilgamesh sought the secrets of eternal life, driven to do so by the death of his friend Enkidu. He was told that he should find a man by the name of Unapatism who had been granted eternal life by the gods. He found Unapatism, from whom Gilgamesh successfully persuaded to tell his story. Ute stated that indeed he had been granted the secrets of eternal life and was told by the gods, O man of Shupak, son of Ubertatu, abundant wealth, scorn passions, abandon wealth, scorn passions, save thyself, tear down thy house and build a ship. Let it be well measured. He describes the ship he built, and from all principles of naval architecture, it was a ship which could be tipped over, square. Not what people think today. I mean, I've seen their interpretations of what they think the ark. That ark could have never survived a cataclysm. It would have been flipped upside down, folks. But, we're not going to discuss that, because they'll say, well, it was really big. Yeah, well, if you got a 2-mile high tsunami, yeah. Probably meaning oblong. After he built it, he launched it, and no less than 8 shakedown cruises. Each time he would bring it back, and he would begin to chalk in the bitumen, and check it out again. Finally, after he had it ship shape, he held what they call real Belzar. That's a feast to celebrate its completion with beer. Gotta love that. Wine. I'm sure it was the finest kind. Venison, mutton, and served it to all who came. All right, that's a party. I'm sure they had music. On the very next day, after the feast, he decided that it was time to load the ship and set it to sea on the cruise for survival. I then landed the ship, and the whole harvest of life I loaded. My family, my friends, the beast of the fields, the cattle of the field, the craftsmen, the people that help him build the ship. He didn't build it by himself, although that's what the story says, and the tools of their trade. I made them all embark. I then embarked and closed the door. And as soon as the gleam of dawn shone in the skies darkened, black clouds gathered. Inside them, a dad thundered. Soon all light had turned into darkness. Brother could recognize brother no more. The animals of the skies could no longer see each other. Ute then described the onslaught of the storm, which generated sheer, all-out terror in the ship. Following that, he wrote, for 6 days and nights, wind and flood marched on. The holocaustic wind overwhelmed the land. When the 7th day dawned, the ill wind was stilled. The oceans, the flood, which had waged war like an army, was ceased. I opened the window and beheld the devastation, and all of mankind was turned into mud. As high as the flat of the rooftops lay the swamps, and thousands of dead, of man, of beast, cattle, lie floating in the mire. He then proceeded to describe the bumping into the mountain, and releasing the 3 birds and bringing back of the leaf, followed by disembarkation, the building of an altar, and more. So we're going to stop right there. It shows you how the story, I'm sure when, Ezra was giving his interpretation of the books, because there were no books. They'd all been burnt, destroyed. People always say, well, but there was one. There was one. No evidence of any. We have evidence of how the books were recreated, again, by Ezra's memory. But so in his memory of his story, supposedly Moses got the story. It's a total fabrication. And the point to all of this is, folks, is you can see there's no benevolent creator here. This story it's not sugar-coated. It's brutal. It's so brutal that, most people don't want to hear it. Like, no, I'm going to keep my story. I like the way that it turns out. Well, it may not be turning out that way. So I'm just trying to look. Someone says Lilith is from the ether. Well, B3, I've felt her visit. So she is. So I'm just trying to read up at this. Could you please put the whole book on the Crystal Network? I think we have, and if not, I'll make sure that we do, because we're going to get into it. Tomorrow, we get into ETs. They are written about, and I'll just give you a little preview. So I remember in taking Bible courses that there was, you had to pick out a minor prophet in the Old Testament. Well, I picked out Zechariah, profound book. And as I began to, read the book of Zechariah, became very evident of something. There were flying machines back in the biblical days, the Bronze Age, technically. And when I read that, I couldn't quite believe it. I actually, and I'll show you tomorrow, a really good artist rendition. And that was the thing. When I read that, I'm going, now, wait a minute. So they had these flying machines, and do you know where they came from? Who knows where they came from? Sumer. Wait a minute. So we've got the story of Enki, Enlil, Ea. Then we've got Abram, who worshiped Inanna, the moon goddess, who was the top, who suddenly makes a deal. So Abram goes from matriarchal to patriarchal. All right, but he's still Sumerian. Then we got this cockamamie story in Zechariah about a flying ship, a craft coming from Sumer. That's when I begin to go, now, wait a minute, folks, there's something going on here. There is. So tomorrow it's going to be very interesting. And the stories of, particularly the Hindu history, I think is more accurate than what people of the world have given it credit to. Believe that is exactly what was here. There was a different culture. There was a different race species. And they had wild technology. All right, folks. Well, I hope this has been fun. So, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Y'all are the best. Just want to say a big hello to, I haven't seen some of these people in a while, and I always think about it. Josh, how you doing? I know I got your email, brother. Big Al, I hope you're having great your new adventure. Karen, of course, with Queen of Courts. Irene, have you on my list. Owe you an email. Julie, thank you again. D. Morgan, you know who you are. Sherry, and just many others. I mean, I see some of the people, and then, I miss some of these people. Well, thank you, Material Classified. Good to see you, my friend. Yeah, good stuff. All right, tomorrow we'll continue on. And I'll just close it with this. With the magnetic poles moving each year the way they are, it's the question that I keep on thinking, what point do we reach past that teeter-totter? I don't know. All right, folks, much love to you, peace to you, and we will talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.